Hey guys, Tony here. Back again. I wanted to do a record collection spotlight, if you will. I've done these videos before, and each time I say I want to do them as often as possible, and I usually just fizzles out after a few. I want to give it another shot. The reason being a couple reasons. So I know it doesn't look like it, but I did some reorganizing, and so I came across some things that I totally forgot I had, and some things that, like, I listened to once, maybe twice, and put them away. So there's things that I just don't know very well. You know what I mean? But also, I was on Discogs. Now, if you don't know what Discogs is, it's a huge album database where you can input your collection. There's information about albums, and you could buy records, and etc. And I have most of my collection on there. There's a chunk that I don't, but for the most part, my collection is up on Discogs. And I was looking at my collection, and I saw there's an option for where you select a random item. So it's a button you push, and one random record pops up. And I thought, wouldn't that be a good way to do these videos? To just have the database, the website, select one random item from my collection, and I would do a video on it, spotlight, so as a means of getting to know my collection a little bit better, let's say, or some random item, and listen to it and sort of do a quick little review on here. So I think that's what I'm gonna do, and again, I'll say I'm gonna try and do these as often as possible, but we'll see how it goes. I like doing these videos, try and keep it short. And also, just as a means to get to know my collection, I think it'd be interesting too. You never know what'll pop up. I think the only time I'll deviate from that is if I'm getting the same artist in a row, or too much of the same genre in a row, or if there's something I really want to talk about, let's say. But for the most part, I'm going to let Discogs select the album that I'll talk about. And yeah, I'll try and do these as often as possible. So we'll see. So the first album that came up is a fantastic jazz record, and one that I bought not too long ago, maybe a month or two ago. I was able to find it for $5, and that is Alice Coltrane's third solo album, Daoud. And this is just a fantastic album. So if you don't know Alice Coltrane, John Coltrane's wife, mostly known as, but if you're not familiar with her work, you could say what you will about spouses of famous musicians who try and have a career of their own, and all the stereotypes that sort of lend itself to that, but those cannot be applied to Alice Coltrane, because she is just a massive talent all her own, an incredible jazz player, great pianist, harp player, one of the few harpists in jazz, But yeah, she was classically trained. She was born Alice McLeod, from Detroit, classically trained, loved classical music, but grew to realize that classical didn't really lend itself to individual expression or creativity, and she realized that jazz did. And so she switched from classical to jazz, and I think she went to Paris and played with Bud Powell. She became a bebop pianist. And, at some point, I think 65 or something, she met John Coltrane. They got married. And in 66, she joined Coltrane's band. She replaced McCoy Tyner as the pianist. So she was able to play with, Pharoah Sanders and John Coltrane in that setting. And at that point in John Coltrane's career, he had gone completely avant-garde, totally free jazz. And she was able to keep up in that setting, So I think she was only in the band for a year before he passed away, and I think he helped secure a recording contract for her shortly before he died. So she had a contract with ABC Impulse, and yeah, she started making albums of her own after he passed away. And this is her third one, Daoud. Now, if you're not familiar with her work, it's usually very spiritual jazz. She's a very spiritual person. It's very strongly reflected in her music. But this album, I would say, is a little less spiritual. Well, you still probably classify it as a spiritual jazz album, and there's definitely some of those leanings. A lot of her work had sort of these Eastern influences going on, but not so much here. This is pretty much a straight jazz album, straight soul jazz album at times. Not very free. I mean, there's hints of spiritual jazzy and free jazz throughout the whole album, but for the most part, it's a pretty straight album. But it's fantastic. One of her best. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. Probably Journey to Statue Donata is probably my favorite, but this is still incredible. Now she has Pharoah Sanders playing tenor sax and Joe Henderson playing tenor sax. Now those are two very different stylistic players. Pharoah Sanders, again, also a very spiritual player, also very free. Not so much on here. And you have Joe Henderson, who's a very technical saxophone player. His playing is much more loose and free on this album. Pharoah Sanders playing, recorded in the left channel, and you have Joe Henderson on the right, I believe is how it went. Or vice versa. No, Pharoah Sanders is on the right, Joe Henderson's on the left. But also you have Ron Carter on bass and Ben Riley on drums. And it's just a fantastic set. The opening track, the title track, which is 14 minutes, is just incredible. Great solos throughout. They're sort of playing a riff over and over, if you will, but it's a great composition. The second track, Torreya and Ramakrishna, there's no horns on that, so it's just Alice on piano, a little bit of bass and a little bit of bells. It's beautiful. She takes a solo on here. It's just so fluid and just gorgeous. On the second side, the first track, Blue Nile, is the only track she plays the harp on, and again, beautiful, very, again, fluid. You think like, I don't know, like a stream or something, it's just very, very nice. And then this last track, only 4 tracks, Mantra, which is probably the freest track on there. It probably has the most improvisation. The piano sounds a little sort of free, and great solos. I should mention too that Pharoah and Joe Henderson both play tenor sax throughout, but except on Blue Nile where they switched to tenor flute. But yeah, 1970, her third solo album, incredible, one of her best. If you don't know this album, do check it out. It's not the easiest one to find on vinyl. I was after this for quite a while before I found it. A bunch of Alice Coltrane came into a local store, Replay Records, and I missed out on this one. This was there, but I was able to get like 3 other ones. And then a week later, this came in again, he said, the owner of the store had said he hadn't seen this album in years, and it came in twice within 2 weeks, which is just incredible. But anyway, I want to keep these short, so there you go. Fantastic jazz album. If you don't know Alice, check her out. If you know Alice but don't know this, check it out. I'm telling you, this is a great album. So there you go, guys. I'll be back soon to do another one of these. Leave me comments. Thank you.